This is Akashvani. In the program Insights, now we bring a discussion on Production Linked Incentive Scheme 2.0 for information and technology related hardware. The participants are Jiten Kumar Jain, IT expert, and Sonu Sood, AIR correspondent.
The Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved the second phase of the Production Linked Incentive PLI scheme for IT hardware with a budgetary outlay of rupees 17,000 crore over 6 years. Can you tell us, Jitenji, how will it boost manufacturing of IT hardware in the country, and how significant is this initiative for the Indian economy?
I think it's very significant because what has happened in last 30 years that India was known as outsourcing, IT superpower of the world. We were technically not the software superpower, but outsourcing superpower. And then came a time that we had best of IT technology companies, booming in India. And that was still, I think, 2010-11. But in last decade or 7-8 years, government has invested heavily in the digitalization of entire IT sector, public services, banking sector, financial sector. And it has led to enormous growth of, India growing actually as a cyber or, you would say an IT superpower. Now, we are producing best of apps. We have, got thousands of unicorns now booming up. But, we were somewhere down the line lacking a lot in that hardware. Our dependencies on Chinese hardware in telecom, power and energy infrastructure has led to security, national security risk. I mean, we saw government banning hundreds of Chinese apps during the Galwan conflict. It also exposed that government immediately could not ban Chinese hardware because of our dependency on this external hardware in telecom and energy sectors. But now from last 4 years, government has made a consolidated, very dedicated effort to ensure that we start manufacturing chips within India. We start manufacturing hardware embedded systems within India so that we become truly self-reliant in the technology when we are standing in the dawn of digital age. So I think this outlay of 17,000 crores in a revamped performance PMI scheme, I think is significant because it's I think 1 to 4% higher than the previous one. And the previous schemes, could not deliver. I think the government has understood the feedback of the industry. They have seen that most of the incentives are going into healthcare, telecom and, IT sector, biotechnology also. So government is now trying to, revamp everything. So I think this scheme now will bring an additional production of almost around 3,35,000 crores and then maybe an additional investment of 2,500 crores roundabout. So this is going to change the scheme and this is for the duration of 6 years now instead of 4.
So you feel that, as you said that under PLI 2.0 for IT hardware, an incentive of up to 5% is being offered on incremental sales, more than double the roughly 2% being offered under the first phase. And also, it allows flexibility to applicants to choose 2023, 2024 or 2025 as the base year. So overall, does this show the flexible approach of the government, where they are prepared to amend the scheme, reform any scheme to get better results out of it?
I think you have to understand this is a longer tenure of 6 years as opposed to 4 years earlier, and the incentive packages are also very attractive. And just to correct you, I think it's not 5%. It is on an average 5%. It can go up to 8%. So it will be around 4 to 8%. So on the higher side it is 8%. So 5 is an average, not the maximum. So that is one good thing, and almost like 1 to 4% depending on the category higher than the first version. Second, you see, once you have this additional production of 3,35,000 crores and investment of 2,500 crores, this tune is almost, I think, going to create additional employment opportunities for around 75,000 people, as Minister said, in next 6 years. Already, if you see, I think there are around 25 lakh employees in the IT and telecom sector in India today, in the mobile manufacturing and IT. So there will be a significant growth. And India in last 3 years is seeing crucial investments coming in our telecom industry, in the local manufacturing. We have seen, Apple coming to India for manufacturing iPhones. So this is going to, attract a lot of foreign investors, as well as this is going to be a great enhancer and, morale booster for indigenous Indian products. So I think once you become truly self-reliant in the hardware sector, then this new revolution of AI, IoT-based economies, sensors, India will be, I think, racing ahead because we already have an advantage of being one of the best software superpower pioneers of the world. And once you have, completely indigenous capabilities in the hardware sector, the combo of both software and Indian hardware is going to be deadly. I think that is where we are going to look at the growth of $5 trillion economy.
And also the security angle will become more strong. It will be better.
Yes, obviously, there was a lot of shortages for Chinese chips, which was also manufacturing not only the IT sector, but the automobile sector also. And you have to understand that, there have been reports across the world that how Chinese have been, using and exploiting the dependencies of the world on Chinese hardware by sometimes installing backdoors, spyware, sometimes, obscuring the supply chains to harm the automobile and other IT sectors of the world. So I think in today's scenario, your dependencies or, self-reliance on telecom, energy and, IT sector is very much critical to national security, especially in the time of economic conflict. So I think this is going to resolve that problem for India's security and dependence on Chinese hardware products.
The IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav met industry representatives after the cabinet approval given yesterday. He said the josh of the industry was very high and investment under the new scheme is expected to start within weeks. Now, for this to become a reality, how much of a role do you think the state governments will have to play? The cooperation from the states is equally important?
I think for states, you see, if you can solve the problem of land acquisition and labor issues, most of the problems are sorted because, most of the incentives are given from the central government. And I think every manufacturer, if they might prefer South India, if it is an automobile company, they might go to Gujarat or, other parts of this thing. But if it is a biotech company, they might go to Pune or somewhere. So everywhere there are hubs in India. Idea is that how do you attract foreign investment? For example, it will be interesting to see if any of these investments would go into Bengal with a state full of violence. So I think states have equal benefits if they cooperate with the central government and they can attract foreign investment in their state. Why not? I think any state would be proud to host Apple in their state and be an iPhone manufacturing hub. And I'm sure there are many other products for automobiles, biocons, and every state will be proud if they can cooperate and get those foreign companies to India, especially when these new incentives are being offered. But we must understand, it is not only about economics. It is a serious threat to our security that, tomorrow if China was to stop the complete supply of Chinese hardware in our telecom and energy sector, I think we will come to a standstill. And the problem of supply chains, the risk of supply chains, the threat of supply chain disruptions have been, completely exposed in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And that is where Pradhan Mantri ji is very seriously focusing on Atmanirbhar Bharat. And the major focus of that Atmanirbhar Bharat is now being focused on, the hardware sector, manufacturing sectors related to, technology and other futuristic sensors.
Now, in this PLI 2.0 for information technology related hardware, additional optional incentive of up to 3% has been announced for companies that use locally manufactured components, for example, memory chips. Now, you feel this will have a multiplier effect on the economy. The figures that we just talked about, the more the indigenous components are used, that will have a multiplier effect on the benefits that will ensue from this.
Of course, it's a win-win both for the government and the industry. You see, when India brought in this National Telecom Security Directive, banning, all Chinese hardware from the telecom sector, and, they went for this whitelisting regime. And the significant beneficiaries of the Telecom Security Directive banning Chinese companies were the Western companies because they wanted to fill the vacuum. So idea is that if India is creating an opportunity by, banning this risky, cheap Chinese hardware, that should be taken advantage of by the Indian companies and they should benefit so that we become indigenous instead of Chinese being replaced by the Western technology companies. Similarly, we all have seen these routers in our homes. We were all filled with these Chinese Wi-Fi routers, which were, deeply vulnerable. There have been, I think, 3-4 reports across the world how Chinese have been installing backdoors in their routers and they've been able to compromise networks. So this has become a significant issue now. And just for an example, if you see, many of these telecom operators, internet service providers have been all installing these cheap routers at our homes because they are cheaper. So the government is saying if these companies, use indigenous chips, routers or other products, they'll get additional incentives. So I think it is an attempt to compensate, if not fully, at least partially, for these companies to start moving their, supply chains to Indian manufacturers. So it will benefit everybody in the long run, both for Indian companies because there will be no price blackmailing by foreign vendors. It will be a national security consolidation so that you're not dependent on foreign hardware. And I think in the bigger cycle, industry and customers and citizens will also benefit because the more you buy from India, the cost will come down of Indian products.
So this PLI scheme is covering high-tech electronics such as laptops, personal computers, all-in-one computers, servers.
It's all about memory chips and the hardware.
Memory chips and ultra-small form factor devices. The minister said that learning from their experience in mobile phones and in telecom products, the earlier mindset of import substitution has now changed to export-led growth. So how soon do you see India becoming an exporter in these items also, as we have already seen in mobile phones?
You see, we are already exporting iPhones. We will soon be, I think there are talks of exporting Vande Bharat coaches to different geographies across the world. We are already exporting Unified Payment Interface, UPI, for payment, processes across the world. So I think we are making best of technologies already. So if we are able to make best of hardware, imagine we are the highest software population in the world. We are the biggest smartphone population in the world. We are the biggest internet consuming population of the world. We are the cheapest per GB cost of internet in the world. So if we are the biggest consumers, if we are the biggest innovators, why not be the biggest manufacturers of those products also? So this is the whole example that if we are the biggest smartphone consumers of the world, if we are using the best of data, then why not have our own smartphones made in India, completely owned by Indian companies, designed by Indian companies, and consumed by Indian customers?
So to become this strong player in the global value chain, as you have mentioned that China had a very strong presence or still has, which other countries are competitors for India against whom we have to stand up?
Whoever provides the best manufacturing opportunities will get the business. But Chinese, I think this whole balloon of China business, cheapest available option for these companies have now been busted. The air is gone. These companies have realized the employment of Chinese labor is risky. People don't like this, bonded labor being used in Xinjiang. They don't like Chinese governments trying to scuttle these technology companies to install backdoors. They don't trust Chinese now to have given them security guarantee of these companies. Chinese PLA, along with these companies like Huawei, which have been collaborating with these Western companies, have been accused by FBI and CIA of stealing patents, technology information, futuristic growth information, research information. So West has realized that these short-term incentives are compromising the long-term gain by Chinese stealing every technology in every sector, be it from fighter aircraft to router embedded OS to software to installing backdoors in Cisco routers. There have been allegations across the world. So West has realized that we have to move away from China, and these companies are now looking at countries like India, Indonesia, Vietnam, and I think India is a better option because of our size of population, diversity of our geographical economies. We have got port, we are in the Asia, so we have got better connectivity for manufacturing. We have got better connectivity for cheap labor availability. We have got best talent available, and then we have got, shipping lines open to across Middle East, Africa, Asia, and Europe. So I think India is now at the dawn of digital age with complete preparedness by the government to support the private sector to lead India-led technologies to the world.
And you feel that India, with all these advantages and a very strong domestic market, is likely to become a leader soon in these products?
If Indian companies has to grow, then the original demand has to come from the Indian population. So you can't expect an Indian manufacturer to, make a phone and export it to the world without Indians buying it in substantial numbers. So I think our domestic demand and domestic consumption, if anybody is able to, infiltrate the market, they can lead the world within a very short span of time. Don't forget, companies like ZTE, Huawei, they became one of the biggest brands in the world within a span of a decade. And India is poised at equal, domestic size of market. So if we are able to create a domestic demand for Indian products, I think we will take a shorter turnaround time to lead the global market.
And how many Indian companies you feel are going to come forth? What has been the response till now to the PLI scheme? What has been roughly the proportion of Indian industry giants taking advantage of this scheme?
No, I think it's too early to predict because there'll be a lot of joint ventures, collaboration. So you can't say that it is purely an Indian company or Indian companies coming to joint investments and the joint projects. But I think whatever the weaknesses and, problems were there in the first PLI scheme now has been taken care of. Most of the industry feedback has been taken and the incentive has also been increased. So already most of the benefits were going to technology sectors, biotechnology sector, as I already said, in the transport sector. I think government has, realized that they are making the best of it. So they are trying to push more so that, now I think you would remember Zenith in India used to make laptops and computers 15, 20 years ago. They stopped doing it. So we were doing what we are trying to do. We were already doing it 20 years ago, but they did not get environmental clearances. They were not able to set up factories because of this bureaucracy and red tape, and we lost the opportunity. So government is now trying to ensure that you create a level playing, fair, red tape free field for Indian companies, and you create a launch pad for them, and they'll be able to take off themselves. But to say that how many Indian companies, I think time will be the best judge. But let's wait for a year. I think more than 50% this PLI scheme will be taken advantage of by Indian companies.
Thank you so much, Jitenji, for this detailed discussion on this exciting development, PLI 2.0 for information technology related.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on Production Linked Incentive Scheme 2.0 for information and technology related hardware. The participants were Jiten Kumar Jain, IT expert, and Sonu Sood, AIR correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.